Tonight's Landscape Podcast.
Wow, what an amazing morning. Absolutely staggering. It just goes to show, what did I say last week? Just show up. Keep showing up. Eventually, you get the luck. I've had the most fantastic morning. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. It's been a great day. Been pleased to have you with me. So until next Sunday at 6 o'clock, I'll see you next time. Goodbye, take care.
So, good evening and welcome to another Landscape Lenscast podcast with Paul Cunningham. Throughout Dave's career, he has explored various types of photography format, from traditional film to digital. Now, his work is influenced by renowned photographers like Bill Brandett, Henry Bresson, and Don McCullen. And he has also completed diverse commercial assignments, including collaborations with organisations like the BBC and Cable and Wireless. Additionally, Dave has 14 years as a teacher, experience as a teacher, his background, and frequently speaks at camera clubs and photography societies, offering talks about landscape, aerial photography, and woodland photography. And now he offers limited editions of his portfolio images through his website, showcasing his own dedication and passion for photography and the world through his lens. Now, Dave's YouTube channel, which is a must-watch, you'll learn so much in a short period of time. We'll actually put a link to that just now on the screen, and of course also we'll stick it below the video for you guys to get at a later time. So first and foremost, just want to introduce of course Dave Peck.
Yeah, I normally start, and thanks very much for that, by the way, Paul.
Thank you.
I don't know where you read that from, I don't remember sending that, but that's great. Yeah, I normally start by introducing myself by sort of talking about my history, you know, as photography goes back so as far as I can remember, and as you say, I've been a portrait photographer. I set up a lab, and we did the school photography where people go to schools and take the pictures of the kids and the class groups. Then I went on cruise ships, spent a couple of years as a cruise ship photographer, which was great fun. Then I was running a school photography, the photography side of it, sort of troubleshooting. For a while, and then I decided to become a primary school teacher, which I've really enjoyed, which has been 15 years now actually. And by the end of this year, I'm going to stop doing that and do a bit more photography, a bit more full time. But I've been doing YouTube for a couple of years. I've been in digital photography since the very first. We had that in our place of work. We had the Nikon D1, the very first one in the country. It was, from memory, it was about $4,000, and it was 2 megapixel and weighed a ton. And as soon as I saw that first image come on the back of the camera, the back of the screen, it was like all that pressure of, have I wound the film on? Is it going to develop? Have I exposed it properly? Am I going to bugger it up? And the developer just went away. So that's kind of been a little bit about my journey.
Right. And of course, you know, where were you born and raised, and what influenced you to, of course, become a landscape photographer?
I was born and where I'm still am, raised in Colchester, a little place called Manningtree, just outside Colchester, actually. My family come from, my dad's part of the family comes from a place called Haisborough, I was there yesterday, actually. John Constable painted the Hayway at a place called Flatford, and our family come from this area. So I've always been here, but I've always been fascinated by nature. I enjoy photographs of wildlife, but the landscape I mean, my dad, the very first picture I ever took, and I remember it distinctly, I was in Jersey, on the island of Jersey on holiday, and my dad handed me his box brownie, and he said, you can use it. And I can still remember the smell of it, the leather and the click, and wow. Obviously didn't have to wait like 3 months for him to finish the film, but, that's the kind of, I've always been fascinated by technology, by nature, by landscape, and everything now kind of makes the complete circle with landscape photography, I guess.
Exactly, of course. Just regards to your photography style, which if you've been under a rock, people have been living under a rock, but some it's actually never seen your work before. Just tell the viewer what type of photography you do, and what was your proudest moment as a photographer, also.
Oh, okay. I was going to save this for one of the pictures, actually, but I can talk about it now.
Yep, that will come up very soon. Good plug.
Yeah, okay. Well, my style is very much, I guess it's been very natural. I like to capture things in the camera, shoot raw. I hadn't done a great deal of work as far as processing was concerned. I'm not anywhere near Steve's level, for instance. But I like to see it on the back of the camera. I'm the sort of guy who goes, and if there's a Coke can in the picture, I'll go and pick it up and remove it. I'm that kind of guy. But lately, and as we go through the photos, hopefully you'll see, lately I've been starting to become a little bit braver with that, and I've started to use processing as part of the creative process. So I think you can use it to express what you want the viewer to feel for your picture. And I don't think I'd realised that for a while. But having said that, awesome nature and awesome photographs look awesome whatever you do to them, I guess. And I think I used to think that over processing things meant the photograph wasn't that good to start with. You're just trying to you're trying to dress it up, if you like.
Yeah.
But I have learned to know that even a dramatic kind of landscape you can make look even better. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's still quite valid. So I've started to become a little bit braver, as hopefully you'll see a bit later on.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll certainly get to that point very quickly. So, of course, you have taught for 14 years or 15 years, as you've corrected me there, regards to being a school primary teacher. From that background, what have you taken as a professional person from that background into your landscape photography itself? Is there anything that if you said that's helped you from that background, especially as photography talks, etc., and things like that?
Yeah,
what's helped you?
Certainly. I mean, I've never been a particularly shy guy, but it's interesting with the teaching, because I'm talking pretty much all day, or certainly around children. When I get home from work, I'm very much like, I just don't want to speak to anybody for a couple of hours. My wife,
I know what you mean.
Not antisocial. I just don't want to hear anybody speaking. So that's kind of had a downside to it, I guess, on a photography day if I come home from work. But what it has done is I deliver science courses to adults as well, adult teachers, so teacher training. I train the trainee teachers, which I've done for a few years. And that has enabled me to go and stand up in front of 20, 100, 200 people and I don't even get the butterflies, if you like, now.
I did read that on your website in regards to that. It helps you so much.
Kind of confidence for talking to people, which has been quite nice, because there have been moments, obviously, when I first started out, you're like, oh my word. But it's taught me that to do anything like that, if I know that if I'm prepared, if I've got my cameras charged up, if I've got my maps, I've got the alarm set, I know what I'm doing, then I'm not going to be stressed. If I'm rushing about, have I done that? Where am I going? Where do I park? Then that's where the stress, and that's where you don't enjoy it so much. So I think I've learned preparation is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good bit of advice for anybody watching as well. It's always, and me, of course. I mean, just before we get to the next question and start showing a bit images, Alistair, have you any questions?
And life in general. One videos I've been watching about losing your mojo and being fed up, and what's the point, I think was the title of the video. It sounded like it just suddenly came crashing down and you were what is the point? What is going on here? Did you get over it fairly quickly? Did you get that mojo back again?
I did, fair enough. Yeah, it's funny. It's happened to me a few times. I'm sure it happens to everybody. I think
Yeah, definitely.
when it first happened to me, I thought maybe that's just me, but I think it happens to a lot of people. I've loved, and I passionately loved photography since I can remember, since I can't remember since I was born. Basically, got my first camera at 13, and over those years, there have been moments where I haven't picked up a camera for a couple of months. I had one point in my life where I've said to my wife, "I think I might sell my cameras," and she said, "Don't you dare." And she was dead right, because what I've since realised is when I'm teaching, and I'm a part-time teacher now. I need to teach a couple of days at a time. I've realised that if I am a bit like that, the thing to do is to go grab a camera and go either to the coast or get in the woodlands and concentrating on taking pictures. And you guys know, you see a scene, and it happens probably 4 or 5 times a year when you just go, "That's gonna be good."
Yes.
That's a portfolio.
Yes.
I've had a lot of times on YouTube for a year and a bit of going, yeah, it's all right, it'll make a video, but it's not brilliant. But sometimes you just go, and that's what you're chasing, I think. And that, I know that when that moment comes, that's kind of, that chills me right out. But I lost my mojo recently because I was watching Thomas Heaton.
Yeah.
I thought he's got a new camera there, because he always grades his stuff very flat, which I don't like. And all of a sudden, this thing's going bing. I said to my wife, "Look at he's done. I just can't do that. That's just amazing. He's off Svalbard or wherever he's doing, And you feel a bit imposter syndrome. You feel a bit like, I'm never going to be at this level, because you're always trying to push yourself. But I think I've realised that we're getting there, and the thing to do is just go out and do your thing.
Yeah.
It's actually was equipment envy, and I've got Thomas Heaton to the side, that you spotted that he changed cameras. Now, was that when he went from the GFX to the Nikon Z7 II or 3, whatever it is, 2, I think it is?
It was the video side of it.
Oh, the video recording side, right?
The video seemed. I mean, he's a video guy, isn't he? That's his.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's his background, and he's brilliant. I mean, Steve's really good. All the stuff I said, Steve. Thomas's videos are fantastic, and I thought he'd change his video camera. It's not an equipment envy so much, because I think I'm not this. I'm a Nikon guy. I'm a Fuji guy. I use whatever. I mean, I like the best sensor you can have. That it's the sensor in a box and a lens, isn't it? Ultimately. So I'll obviously try and go for the best quality. But with Thomas, it was the video production. All of a sudden, that was the bit.
Thomas, what have you done? It's awful. And what he was using was what I've ended up buying was a Insta360, but he just left it flat. There was no pop in it at all, and it was showing him getting ready to go somewhere. And then another one, he was in the car, and it just looked dull and miserable. And I thought, man, that's not Thomas.
He films in D-Log, which I now do with Free, and D-Log is great because you've got all of that dynamic range, that all of the skies don't burn out. But I like to regrade it. But I don't think Thomas Heaton does. He just leaves it flat, which he likes, and that's fine. Personally, I don't. But I think he graded one of these videos.
Some people like to leave it in the D-Log format. It's a very flat, almost boring sort of image. But it seems to be a style. I've noticed it with quite a few people. And even on television once, I saw somebody had done a program with that style, and I thought, I really don't like it.
Yeah, just don't like it. Photos pop, I guess, but personally, not a big fan.
Well, maybe that's what it is. The B-roll, the images, they pop then. Yeah.
Who knows?
So one of the questions I always ask to every single landscape photographer that comes on here: have you ever actually tried a different genre that you feel that you're that close? You feel want to go into a more commercial sort of market, not being landscape? Would you ever shake away that if you got the point to go professional because it's more of an easier way to go down, or do you feel that you would actually stay doing landscape?
That's a great question. And actually, my career is kind of reverse of that, because I was with the school photography, and I was doing a lot of the studio work.
I can imagine it's quite difficult.
We were doing a load of portraiture. I've done a load of industrial stuff. I've done a load of stuff for car garages, photographing car showrooms and stuff, which I really enjoyed. I've worked on, so to say, cable and wireless, laying some cables. We were doing with school photography. We were going to schools and photographing the kids, and we called it like photographing baked beans. It was like a baked bean factory, and we got to the stage, we worked it out, and I'll never forget it. We worked out we'd done a school of 2,000 kids, but 3 of us, and we'd photographed a kid every 4.5 seconds over the whole time. I mean, that's
a big turnover.
So I'm bored with the portraiture because that was how quick we could do it. And I've done stuff with models and stuff, and was a professional, but then stopped that. I had an opportunity in my life 15 years ago where I could have stuck with landscape photography. I could have set my own school photography business up. I could have done weddings, or I could have been a teacher. And I think the pension swayed me. Plus the fact that I've been earning money doing that, and I wanted to do something different. And you said the word tranquil earlier, and I'm very much of the opinion that I will do stuff that I want to do. I'm very fortunate in as much as I don't have to earn any money from the photography. But also if I don't love it, I'll stop.
So that's a great outlook, actually, and it takes the pressure off. So many people are
absolutely.
We're all so much. I know we all everyone's different here, of course, sitting here tonight, but we all have like our channels, etc., and we strive to be the best we can. Of course, as people, as a human being, we do as well. But there's that thing where there's a seems kind of like people are trying to, in photography, be the best in the way that they want to go full time, or we had Paul Thompson on the show, and he kind of said it's quite brutal being full time. It takes a lot of time. He breaks even every year. So you're not expected to earn a lot of money being a full time photographer. But then again, it just depends on your course circumstances, and it depends on course clients you've got, etc. But it's no mean feat, of course.
There's a couple of things on that. Sorry to interrupt you. First of all, I've realised that if you're, I've known this a long while. If you're a professional photographer, you are working for somebody. You are therefore producing work on somebody else's agenda, somebody else's brief. And I may not be interested in that, but if you're a professional photographer, that's kind of what you have to do. I don't need to call myself a professional to.
So, of course.
Justify that. I'd rather do stuff on my own.
Exactly. And I think it's just a label, really, in this day and age. And
but having said that, I'm also quite passionate about people giving away their skill for free. I think we had a long debate many years ago about the photo libraries when they first came along. And we said, we had a meeting. We said this is going to devalue commercial photography. And it has. It's completely. You go and shoot a photograph, someone sells it, you earn 20 pence out of it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm very much against that, and I'm very much against keen amateurs doing a wedding for nothing because it will give them experience.
What? Publicity, because of social media.
You're taking something away from somebody who's earning a livelihood. Years ago in Germany, for instance, you had to have a license to be able to do that. And I think we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole of nobody's earning any money anymore because everybody can do it. It's not valid.
It's got a competitive market now, and I think as now as society, we all have tools at our disposal, like social media, YouTube, etc. We didn't have that 25 years ago, etc. And just it's that kind of thing that I keep banging on about. That back then it was so good, so raw, so fresh. And now it seems saturated, absolutely saturated. It's a market, but every now and again, people like yourself, who actually stop you and looking through your scrolling through the screen, and you do appreciate the images because you can escape a landscape image, and that's what we're going to go into now. And I'm not just done that to build up to this part, but we are going to go and look at some images, and we are going to look at Dave Peck's images. And guys, do enjoy. Beautiful. I'm going to shut up now and let you speak and tell us about your magic.
Thank you. Okay, well, I mentioned earlier that my family are from the Flatford area, and this is actually Flatford. And if you know Flatford, the Flatford Mill, you'll know as a tourist is where that sun is rising over there. And this was taken in 2006, I think. It was taken with a Canon 350D.
Okay.
And so when I left my school photography business and went into teaching, I wanted to buy myself a digital camera. And in those days, the choice was a Canon 350D at the price I could afford, which was 8 megapixel, or a Nikon, what would it have been, 40 or 4 or something? I don't know. There was a Nikon version anyway, but that was only 6.
Yeah.
So I bought the Canon because it's 8 megapixel, which is obviously nothing nowadays. And this was I love panoramics, as I've explained. We used to do lots of panoramics at the schools with whole school groups or whole year groups using 10-8 and 5.4 cameras, and we would crop down the neg. And there was when we used to print these, we had this thing where somebody had made this 24x8 big block of wood with holes in it. We stuck a Henry Hoover in the end of it, and turned the Hoover on. It sucked the roll paper down, and we printed them. And I spent hours in a dark room doing that. And I love that format. I've always loved it. I still love it. But this was actually a pano done on something called a Panosaurus head, which I've still got. Let's see, it sits behind me. And it's 13 images from left to right, taken in April, and Flatford is quite close to me, but it's quite obviously it's sea level, it's very low down, and where I live is slightly higher up. So quite often I look out the window and go, "There's no mist about." Turn up at Flatford, and there is. And this particular occasion, I'd been here 4 times in about 2 weeks, and there'd been no mist whatsoever. But on this particular day, it was lovely. It was great. There was mist just hanging just perfectly. And so I was really frantic because the sun is just about to rise there. So this would have been, I don't know, 5 a.m, something like that. And I tried to get on location about an hour before, and I kind of found this. I'd already knew about this composition, and this is actually 180 degrees. So the left-hand side of the picture is looking down the river to the left, and I'm standing on a bend, and the right-hand side of the picture is looking to the right. Where I'm actually looking at is the tree right in front of me. And I wanted to get this picture done before the sun came up, because in those days with a 350D, the dynamic range wasn't very good, and it would blow the sky out, the mist would burn off. So I was frantically working. I had a mate with me as well who was working behind me doing other bits and pieces. But I did 2 of these images, 2 of these pans, and this was easily the best one. This is a little bit further back. I'm right on the edge of the riverbank. And you can tell it's a pan that's been stitched, because if you look at the clouds such as they are, and the river such that, you can see a slight bend just in the right centre. You can see the
I can see it.
bends, and that's where it was stitched together. And I stitched this together using a PT goo, it's called, I think. And I thought this was revolutionary. A landscape photographer taking a panoramic was amazing. I mean, it turns out I'm sure loads of people have done it before, but I mean, eventually I couldn't. When I got this printed out, I ran an exhibition with a load of mates around here in East Anglia for a hospice. We also produced some pictures and sold them, and the commission that the gallery normally takes, we gave to the hospice, and I had to have it printed up really big. And that tree there, the PIC goo, what they called it, the PT goo software, just would not stitch it together, even though it was taken with a Panosaurus head and the nodal point was of the lens, because you had to work all that out, was bang on right. It still wouldn't stitch together very well. So in the end, we spent the whole day. I spent the whole day at the printers. We had Photoshop open, and we managed to put all of those bend it and warp it a little bit, so everything then sat on that tree there that actually stitched together. And I ended up, as well as putting it in the exhibition, I've sold that picture loads of times. It's one of my endearing favourites that I never take out of my camera talk at all. Some photographs stay there for a couple of years and they go. This one's been there, the very first one. It's still there now. I actually ended up winning a huge great canvas of that, which was about, I don't know, 6 foot wide. It was a huge, great thing. When in those days when you have prizes, that were really good prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And I stuck it in my lounge, and we painted the lounge wall that kind of a light blue colour. And every time my wife said we need to redecorate, I said, well, you can't do, because if you do that, I'm going to have to get rid of the picture. So it got me out of so much decorating. And in the end, I did sell it, and I've had to redecorate. Actually, I've got somebody in, but we've redecorated the lounge since then, so it's let me down a bit. But that picture is one that'll always stay with me. Those willows on the right hand side are called pollarded willows. So what they do is they grow up, and then they trim them like giving them a haircut, and they use all of those branches because they're quite straight. They use them in thatch, I think, around here, and then obviously they grow up again. And they cut them again.
That's interesting.
And it's Fuji now do a 65-24 crop, X-band crop. And when I had a GFX 50S 50R a while ago, and I absolutely loved that aspect ratio. It was fantastic. And I always try and get something on the left, something on the right.
Yeah.
In the middle.
It's certainly balanced. Yeah. I mean, my eyes are kind of drawn to the right a little bit more with the 4 trees, but that's a compliment. In the case that your eye travels back to the cool part of the image, the left hand side of the panel. But yeah, the ingredients to the sunrise in the background there on the right hand side, and of course the morning mist and just everything. It's got everything in it. It's beautiful. So yeah, has anyone got anything you want to talk about this image, Alistair, or even Steve, if you're awake?
He is. I can see him.
I've not. As I'm saying, Steve's thought he's out with this one because he says he knows him, so he knows Dave very well. So we're going to ask him we'll ask Steve questions as well to get him into this interview.
I've got a question about the pano.
There we go. Hey,
yeah, I'm awake.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hit on how hard it was in the old days to process a pano, and how easy it is now. Have you got any opinions on sort of, because it's so easy for everybody to do? I mean, you could do it on a phone nowadays. Does it sort of knock that image back a little bit because it's so easy to process and things like that?
This particular image, you mean?
Well, no, just any pano, really. How easy it is to do a pano today after putting all that effort into it that many years ago. You know, today it'd be done in milliseconds. It can be done in camera.
Yeah.
You know, the work involved in that to appreciate it. That's what I'm trying to get at.
It's funny. It's a good question. I don't feel any more worthy the fact that I've had to work 10 times as hard to do it. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, it's so much, as you know now, with film. You could say you're so much worthy, obviously, with film, because it was so much harder because you didn't know what you're getting until you processed it. You had a good idea, but you never really knew whether you captured what you thought you captured until it came back from the process, or you processed the negs and stuff. So I think that's just the way it is. Photography kind of goes, doesn't it? It kind of develops and stuff. I mean, I enjoyed, I think, the process of creating that, and the day in doing it in Photoshop was just a really interesting day. And the software, it does tell you that things have improved so much. I mean, the big thing with that photograph particularly is, in those days with a Canon 350D, we at the time were using Fuji S1 Pros and S2 Pros for our school photography.
Yeah.
And if you overexpose that sky by just a fraction of a stop, it goes plastic. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
So the harder thing with that particular image was making sure I didn't overexpose the sky, because that's why I didn't want the sun to come up. And it's kind of almost put the sun behind that tree, which we'll get to later on in another image, actually, kind of that trick. But nowadays, the dynamic range is amazing. Things have got so much easier, but that doesn't make pans that are made now any less worthy, I guess. It's all to do with the vision, really.
Yes.
But yes, that was hard. That was I did work hard for that, but that's kind of what I enjoyed, I guess.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it certainly shows it as well. And you've got perfect exposure in the sky there. Perfect. So we're just going to move on to the next photograph, guys. And yeah, this is a great action shot. Beautiful. the movement and what the wave hitting against the. Is that like a kind of like an old pier or something there, or?
That's I don't know where you guys are based. This is Haisborough, which is spelled Haisborough, but it's pronounced Haisborough. Excuse me, sorry. You said earlier, Paul, about highlights of careers and stuff, and I was rambling on and didn't answer that. But this is the point really, and this is really interesting. It has, I mean, photography is about, on some level, is about memories, isn't it? For the guy or the girl who pressed the button. I mean, you want it to attract everybody to like your photography, but for me, this is a memory very much as well. It was taken with a Canon 7D, which I just bought, and I was just up to Scotland in a couple of weeks after this was taken, so I was trying it out. Now, the story with this is Haisborough. These were sea defences which have been completely demolished by the sea, as you can tell. They're still there now. It's a fantastic location. You have to be there at low tide, because if you're there at high tide, you can't get on the beach.
Right.
So you have to have, the tide has to be right. And this particular shot was done in May. So sunrise was around about 4:15, 4 o'clock, 4:30-ish time. And I live 2 hours from there. I like to be on the beach an hour before. I haven't got a camper van like Steve, so I had to get up at like 2 in the morning to drive there. So that was painful. Again, it doesn't make me any more worthy. But the forecast had been partly cloudy, and I was like, brilliant. I hadn't been here before. This is going to be really, really good. Turned up on the beach, absolutely, completely clear blue sky. So we've been up at a ridiculous time in the morning and driven a couple of hours to get there. So I spent some time before the sun came up photographing down the beach, really. And this was the end of the day. The sun had come up, and I was pretty much going, well, that's it now. I'm going to give up, really, and go home. And I thought, actually, I don't think I'll do that. I've spent 2 hours getting here. Let me just enjoy a little bit more time with it. So the sun was really harsh, as you can see. I'm using the Canon 7D, but again, it hasn't got the greatest dynamic range. I did have some Koken grads as well, which I'm using on that. But I suddenly had this idea of putting the sun behind one of those posts. As a bit of backlight, a bit of contre-jour, they called it, don't they? I think. I mean, this water is fantastic. I mean, it smashes, as you can see what it does. It smashes against the post, goes right up in the air. So the sun's picking out the sand that's been thrown up. The shutter speed was a 15th of a second.
I was just going to ask you that. What was the shutter speed? Yeah, good.
It's trying to get a little bit of blur, but not too much blur. So it was trying to make. So I experimented with the shutter speed a little bit, 15th of what I was using, and I was waiting for this backwash to come round to make a nice shape. So took the picture, back of the camera. We talked about it earlier. That's a cracker like that. That's going to be one of my 5 of the year. So I entered this one and another one in the Landscape Photography of the Year
nice
competition.
I
can't remember what year. I'm really 2012, 2013, something like that. And I got an email saying, "Can you send me the raw file?" I was like, "Yes, we're in here." So I sent them off the raw file, and it got a commended, not highly commended. It got commended, which
that's very good.
That was really good. It got in the book. So that was good. And also, at that time, they put the images. They do now actually exhibited them, and this was at the National Theatre in London. So I knew it was there. They said it's all there. The exhibition is all up. So I said, right. So I got my obviously my poor wife had to come with me, my eldest daughter, my mum and my dad, and we drove down to London and parked up, and they got the train in, and I took them in very proudly with my shoulders back, going, "Here's my picture. We found it." And my wife went, yeah, there it is, yep. And then she walked off to have a look at Adam Burton's stuff and all the other good stuff. My mum and dad went to have a cup of tea. And I was just standing there looking at this picture going, I think I've made it, I think this could be the pinnacle of my career. And a guy comes to beside me, and I kind of looked at him and I thought, this would be good. And I went, what do you think of that then, mate? And he went, yeah, it's all right. It's all bloody Photoshop now, though, mate, isn't it?
Oh, God.
I was like, Bloody hell, I've been up at 2 a.m. to get down.
Oh, come on.
You know what I mean? But that's unfortunately what the general public don't believe anything anymore, do they? You know?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, where if you go to a
and actually that picture actually stopped my career, which is interesting because I got to that point and I got to the stage where I was really scared. I think I was scared. Scared's kind of a word that kind of works. I was scared to photograph again because I needed to beat this picture.
Yeah, you've set the bar high with this.
Yeah, and from there on in, I think the bar got lower, or my hit rate was lower, and I actually stopped almost taking photographs after this point, which is a bit daft.
Yeah, I think a lot of photographers will actually say that what you said as well. But that's they will always be the victim of the success of what they're known for.
Yeah,
but they're not always going to spit out these kind of images every time.
Yeah.
I
didn't realise that. I hadn't entered competition. I've entered it once since then, and I haven't bothered ever since because.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to fail. So
no,
I've got over that now anyway.
Good for you as well, and it's a cracking shot, Dave. It really is. Alistair, your take on this image, and just tell me more what you think of it.
Oh, what I'm thinking about it is how waterproof was your camera for that?
Oh, yes.
It is one of those ones where I would see exactly what you were going for and try and get in there at the risk of getting very, very wet. But I'd also be scared that like hell that it would get wet and the camera equipment would get wet, even though they say they're waterproof. That's salt water.
Yeah, the 17 is not waterproof. But what if you stand on the beach and watch, which I did, that water is going straight upwards.
Right.
Straight.
Yeah.
I've got an image somewhere. I don't know where it is of me even closer than that. Really, really with a 10mm lens.
But because you've watched, you know what's going to happen. Yeah, and did you know as well that the backwash or the wave, I don't know that's a backwash, the wave coming in, is going to be in that position just in front to get that foreground interest, because that's perfectly placed.
That's where I wanted, and I've taken about 20 images of this because that's what you need with seascapes.
Yes,
and that's the one I chose because of the shape of that backwash. I just wish the reason I think it got commended not highly, and I've never spoken to anybody about this at all. The top of the wave there is just cropped off.
It's just cropped.
And I wish I'd have gone a little bit further up with the camera.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's why it probably lost the highly commended. But when you're dealing with something like that, it is so difficult to capture it all. Yeah. It's not like I missed the top of a tree there. I cut the top off a tree. This is completely different.
Yeah.
What I do like about it though is the fact that you've got that explosion of water there, but then it follows the line into the distance, so you can see these sea defences going on into the distance there beside the beach, and it gives you context of what it's all about. Yeah, so it's good.
Diagonal lines I use a lot. I think they're a really important compositional element of diagonals because it gives you a photograph, a bit of dynamism, a bit of action, even when there isn't any. So I think diagonal lines are really important. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's a cracking image, and I think in the format it's in as well, there's nothing else that you couldn't crop out in any other way, could you? Really,
that's full frame.
It is what it is. But as Alistair said, you can't really expect, which is quite difficult to get. It's unpredictable to take a shot and then, of course, get the movement of the water to the point where you feel that you can crop the image in camera.
Yeah,
that is so hard. And I think you've nailed the composition of the image, but maybe if you're going to be really picky about it, I see what you mean, and you said in your own words, of course, regards to that. Yeah. But after all, it did make it to the book.
It did make it into the book, and
that's the whole point.
And it's lovely colours. The colours there are gorgeous as well.
Yeah, a lot of my photography is colour. Most of my photography is colour, and I do like the colour of sun. That colour of sunrise, where you get those magentas and the blues and the violets. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of sunsets because they tend to be orange. And I don't really like that. Mm-hmm. So before sunrise, when you get those lovely magentas and purples, and that's my favourite kind of.
Yeah. I've seen it once. Yeah. I'm not a morning person.
Yeah, I've taken a few shots with this magenta.
I photographed the guy called Gary Sugden. He's never seen it either.
So shout out to Gary there.
Oh.
So guys, we'll go move on to the next one. Steve, you have anything you want to say about this image?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is the shutter speed that you chose, because you got two motions there. You got the backwater running back, and then the explosion on the groin there. So you've just got that shutter speed perfect, and then how it's splashed up with that backlight is just phenomenal. I'd highly commend that. It's a cracker. It's an absolute beauty. That's all I wanted to say. Really.
Thank you, mate.
Just picking that shutter
That's
speed and getting it right is perfection. Well done. Fantastic.
We've said it before in this podcast, as when we talk about people's images, we use the term wall hanger. Certainly is a wall hanger.
My mum's got it on her wall.
There you go.
There we go.
You're
So move on to the next one, and this one,
yeah,
this is to the other extreme. Of course, it's more of a cooler. But anyway, I love these type of images. Some minimalist images, and of course these trees, which I can't really tell what they are, but the crevices and everything, and the actual tree trunk itself looks amazing.
Yeah, so these are those pollarded willows again. So
right, so willows, yeah.
So this is down the river. So this is the River Stour, and you are looking at Suffolk, and we are standing in Essex, because it's where the border is.
So you're at the border, yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And these trees are about quarter of a mile from the ones in the first image.
Yeah,
it used to be. I discovered these a while ago, and I've got so many images I could share. We obviously are limited, and I wanted to include ones that kind of really tell a story. And when I photographed these back in 2008, 2009, there were 5 of those trees there. You can just see a stump on the right hand side.
Yeah,
be one. There's those 2. There's one on the left which used to be bigger, and there used to be one in the gap.
Right.
And they used to make a lovely shape. They still make a nice shape, a lovely shape. And these are those pollarded willows. So the willow trees themselves are really old, and but it's a really good example. You can see that those really straight branches, they trim them, give them a haircut, and then they're not very photogenic at all. Well, this was a hoarfrost a couple of years ago. Was it last? It might have been last. This January before. And for a hoarfrost, as you know, it was 10 degrees, I think, the day before, and then it went to like -10 overnight. This cold Arctic front, and I'd heard about it. I was excited about it. Went down to Dedham, because I'm on the Dedham side here, the Essex side, and there was 10 photographers all lined up on the bank, all smiling and jumping up and down, and we were having a great time. And this was taken with the GFX 50R, which I absolutely loved as a camera, because the sensor was just amazing. Really, really enjoyed it, and everything, obviously, that as far as you could see, was just covered in this Narnia frost.
Yeah.
It was. I was there at 7 or 8, and I stayed there till 10:30, and I was absolutely knackered, and there was still frost, and I still could have carried on. But I decided that I'd got enough, and I was going to go home. The brilliant thing about the GFX, there's a medium format sensor. The colours in that sky there's such a big range there.
Yeah,
as it picks up.
You've pulled them up well.
So delicate, and unfortunately that doesn't look anywhere near as good as it does on a print. On a print, it just looks delicious,
Yeah. And I mean the colours are pulled out very well through post processing, I presume, of course, just to try to bring the highlights of the sky out, and it certainly works.
I did very little to it. I mean that's almost how it looked on the back of the camera.
Really? Okay.
I was using a technique called exposure to the right a little bit, just in the shadows, and I very much used the histogram. And the histogram on the back of the camera, I always say to the camera clubs, it tells you what the JPEG looks like, but I shoot RAW, so there's always another stop to the right. But I was sure that the highlights weren't, because I wanted to get that mist in. It's in the distance there.
Certainly captured that, yeah.
And I can remember being extremely excited.
Yeah.
It doesn't even begin to describe how I felt. And you get that thing where you're it's so good, you just don't want to miss anything. And then what the danger is that you spend your whole time running around like a headless chicken, photographing stuff and doing nothing properly. So this particular one, I was very, very careful to make sure that I got exactly how I wanted it. Exposure was dead on. I thought about every single thing. There's some ducks on the left-hand side there.
Yeah, I can see that there. I was going to ask that, actually.
A little bit blurred. I've done another one. I had to clone them out because I thought they were too close and they spoiled it. But that's just, for me, that was my favourite image of last year. And I just love that camera, but unfortunately I don't like how heavy it is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful image, and of course, if you have a calendar, it's certainly one you put in for the calendar for a wintry month, as it were. Certainly beautiful, and of course, the fineness of the branches of the willow tree, as you mentioned, absolutely beautiful. I mean, I just love the detail in the trunks of these trees. But getting away from that side and just looking at the picture as a square crop as a whole, all the elements, they've got the reflection. You've got of course, the interest with the ducks on the left-hand side there, and of course, above all, the breakage of like the warm light cutting through the actual coldness of the mist. It's just stunning. It's a beautiful shot. So well done, Dave. That's a really good shot. Yeah. Guys, anybody want to have their own bit of it?
I was just going to say how nicely you processed it. You sort of answered my question earlier, but by very little. But the processing, you could easily over-process this and destroy the image completely.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got it absolutely spot on. But for me, them little ducks on the right-hand side, they are perfectly placed as well. They're not in the shadow of the bank there or the overhanging trees. They are perfect, and it just finishes.
That'd be the left-hand side.
It goes from the trees to the reflections, then it goes off to the left-hand side. Them lovely ducks there, and it just finishes the image off perfectly.
Yeah, it's just like completing it.
They were really noisy as well. They were making a right noise. I mean, they must have been freezing, poor things.
Yeah, we've got lucky. We can leave our scene anytime they want. They're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cracking image. We'll move on to the next one.
Yep, that's
what a picture this is. This is the one I was more interested in talking about.
Woodland photographer that you are, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I do is, and even if I don't do photography, I won't shoot anything else, really. That's all I care about. Just because of the case that I just feel more at home doing woodland. And these trees, and I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit this way, and I'm going to fail because they could be poplar ones, or they could be birch, or they could be... Sorry?
They're silver birch.
They are silver birch, right? It's a temperature of the colour. It's a colour on them. But yeah, they're just beautiful. What I like about birch trees is the bottoms of them, if they're aged, they're darker, and the tops, of course, you've got the zebra, not a zebra look, but depending on the birch, they're not silver birch, I presume. Is that right?
I think they are, but yeah, you may.
Yeah, I think it's a golden light regards to the warmth of the sun. It's against them. It's kind of not giving that vibe of silver, but yeah, they're nevertheless they're just beautiful trees. This kind of setup, and obviously you've kind of made this about, was that a 16:9?
Yeah, I've done this in different ways. Originally, most of my woodland stuff is 65:24. That expand.
Oh yeah.
I think it's no big secret. I think skies kind of destroy the illusion.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
woodland. Yeah. And I find that 65:24 crops kind of work quite well, unless you're working somewhere where there are lots of hills and banks behind you, which unfortunately in Essex there isn't. Everything's quite flat here.
Right.
So I'd originally shot this with the GFX as a 65:24 aspect ratio, but what you get with those cameras is you get the full file. Mm-hmm. So even though when it comes into Lightroom, it comes in as a 65:24 crop, you can adjust the cropping, which you can't do on the Nikon.
Yeah, you can't. No, you're right.
So this actually is in my lounge. This has replaced the one of Flatford.
You decorated your sitting room again, have you?
So we've now got that kind of creamy colour. And so, I didn't really want to print it as a 65:24. I wanted something a bit bigger, so it's printed it on A2, but it is a 16:9 aspect ratio. And this took me a long time to compose.
Yeah, it is difficult to compose.
I'm sure you as a woodland photographer, you'll probably know. But this was, memories. YouTubers made me get out and photograph pretty much. I have to have a video every week. I haven't missed a single week.
Yeah.
And YouTube is really good for that, as well as learning a new skill, i.e. video. It forces me out of the door to get some images. And I'd gone out the day before. This is about an hour from me. There's a place called Walberswick, which is near, you might have heard of Southwold or Albury. It's very on the coast there in Suffolk. And I'd gone out to Walberswick the day before for sunrise, and the sun was all right and the photographs are okay, but I'd completely lost my mojo again. I was like feeling, what is the point of this? This is rubbish. I'm really not enjoying it. Actually, no, that I was enjoying it. I just didn't feel like I was ever going to capture anything that I was really proud of again.
Yeah.
And I was driving back and I thought, I saw these trees because the road's just to the right. And I sort of went, oh, that'll be an interesting place to come back to one day. And I got home and my wife, who's never ill, was ill. She had the flu. So I had to look after her, bless her. And then the news came on, then the weather forecast, and the guy said there's going to be freezing fog, so be careful. I thought, oh, that's perfect. Yeah. So I looked at her and she just went, I didn't say anything. She went, yes, you can.
Very nice wife, very understanding.
Yeah, she's well trained. So the next morning, I'm back in my car before sunrise, back up here, and freezing fog was there. And I took some wonderful, really, really pleased. Had a great time in the woodland, and this was the last shot of the day. And this was about 10 o'clock.
Okay.
It just hung around. This fog was just hanging around. And I went back to the car. And as I went back to the car, I went, actually, I was just going up the road because I'm sure there's the silver birches I saw yesterday. And these were like, the kind of look at them is like a battery. This is how they look.
Yeah.
Again, I've done very, very little processing to this whatsoever.
Okay.
They had this lovely morning light on them. They're a battery look. And I was so I've spent a long time. If you look on the two trunks on the left, see there's a trunk in between them.
Yeah.
So in the background, you can see there's one on the left and the one on the right there. If you look to the right-hand side, the last two trees on the right, in the distance, there's another trunk there.
Yes.
So I had to adjust. There's a middle bit. You could actually divide that picture into two squares, and it works as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you've certainly spaced out very well.
Yeah, and there's still the freezing fog on the grass and the bracken, and it just, again, another one, pressed the button and went, smash that. That's going to be a great one. And that was my best image of the day. So I could have stayed in bed for another few hours, really. But...
it's a hard genre in regards to trying to get separation, as Steve knows as well. And there's that point where you can spend hours at location, as opposed to like in landscape photography, we go out and we size up a shot, take a few shots, maybe about half an hour to about an hour, but you can spend hours at one location, and you certainly captured the peanut colour of the light that was hitting them there.
And mist, of course, the coldness is always useful, isn't it? Mist is helpful if you get mist.
Separation, absolutely.
Yeah, and something I've learned from Steve actually recently, that these geared tripod heads, which I've not used. But I've now got one, and actually they will be brilliant for this kind of woodland photography. I've used it since, geared heads, and they're so much better for compositions, aren't they, rather than ball and sockets. I just find them so good.
Yeah. I think since I got my Sunway one, it certainly helped me leaps and bounds to slow right down and learn more. Because I've learned more about the composition, more with just instead of just kind of steadying the ball head and then just like making do with a shot that I've found already and I've thought about, of course. When I actually get to that location with the actual gear head, I'm seeing other things and I'm tweaking things, and when I'm tweaking things, I'm noticing I can actually add or take away and subtract whatever, and it works.
It's about taking your time, and I've gone for photographing kids every 4.5 seconds. And now I'm doing this.
Yeah. Guys, anybody wants to talk about the shot? I think a really good one. It's my favourite one so far. Well, actually, arguably so far. So, anybody want to have anything want to say? Talk about this shot.
Well, it's again, like you say, like you pick on, it's the separation of the trees, isn't it? It's critical, certainly in an image like this. But what I like about it again is, and I've shot similar things to this, shooting with the sun behind me hitting the trees, and I've never ever got a good image. I've never ever felt as if I've, the light's too harsh or whatever. But you've absolutely nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. I've never seen an image so not. Normally in Woodland, I would probably tend to shoot with the sun almost in front of me or just out of frame. But especially with silver birch, because they reflect the light so much. But that soft golden light on it, that colour that you've captured, and the separation is just phenomenal. I really like this one. It's a super shot. I'd have it on my wall, and I'd even tell my missus to redecorate for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that actually. Just getting them up in the wall.
The fog is what does it. When the freezing fog. I mean, it's like having with portraits. You have a huge softbox. The bigger the softbox, the softer the light. And it was the light that attracted to me, not the trees. Mm-hmm. You know, I've learned, and you guys know, as someone said to me years ago, photography is about light, and I was always, yeah, but is it? But it actually is, which is why I like to go out at sunrise, because the light is what makes a picture. You can't control that really.
Especially it's too high in the sky.
Yeah. You've got to make an effort as a landscape photographer or woodland photographer or whatever to get up at the best light to give yourself the best chance, whether that's in the morning or later. You've just got to put that effort.
At least if you're going for a shot like that when there's no leaves around, it's obviously taken in the winter when it's a darn sight easier to get up in the morning for that. I mean, I'm waking up at about 4 o'clock in the morning at the moment because the light shining through the window through the blinds. That's far too early to be getting up. It's ridiculous. But in the winter, you might get me out taking some pictures at sunrise.
Yeah, I think this was spring, I think. But the other thing about getting up this time of year, I mean, the sun rises in about 5 minutes. It's not up, and it's up, and the light's gone. The window is so short. I don't often do that.
We was actually getting up at 2:30. Well, we was actually getting up at 2:30 in the morning to shoot sunrise. This was last weekend. Because obviously the further north you go,
lovely image.
And then we were shooting sunset again at 10 o'clock that night, and then getting up again at 2 o'clock, 2:30. But to put that effort in,
you call a dedicated photographer.
You have got to put the effort in for the light, and you're dead right. You know that's why we're off to me and Gary are off to Loughton next year and we're going in February. And my dad said, it doesn't get light very much. So that's absolutely perfect.
Perfect.
It would just be perfect light all day. It's so far north. So it is about chasing the light, really.
Yeah, definitely. But right, okay, we'll move on to the next one, guys. And this is obviously going to another extreme. And we've got the seascape here. Beautiful straight horizon, and the minimalist, of course, shot here. Beautiful. Can you tell us more about this one, Dave? And
this again. So this is me being a bit Steve, being a bit braver with my processing. This is Dovercourt light. What they call them? Light towers. They're not a lighthouse or a light.
I know what you mean. It's
they're a very famous local landmark.
They're more of a lookout kind of tower kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't photographed them very much because I live so close that everybody does them. But I realise actually stuff near you is just as valid as stuff that's a long, long way away. This was the blowiest day. I turned up beside the beach, and this was one of the very few times that I really wasn't sure what to do. I'd planned to go somewhere else. I was going to use my drone over Clacton Pier, and it was so blowy, the drone was just going to get blown out to sea. So I kind of sat in my car, and for once I wasn't very prepared. But again, because I was doing a YouTube video, I needed some images, I needed to do something, and I almost went home. I thought I'd do it tomorrow.
Okay.
It was so horrible.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's get out and do it. So I got there. I mean, the video that accompanies this is quite funny because I just got pelted with hail, and people are walking past me going, "Are you mad?" Well, yeah, I must be. And what you can see behind the light ship there is the end of a weather front. Ends of a weather front, either the start of them or the back end of them, are fantastic because you get this lovely moody sky. So there's rain in the distance there, and the clouds were really angry, and the sea was roaring. It goes up to stones. The noise was incredible. And this was shot on, I think I shot this on the D7 II, which I'm using now.
Oh, yeah.
I've cropped it, so it's a straightforward shot. Obviously, the red marker buoy and the posts were kind of integral part of the image.
Yes.
So the red post is on the 1/3, and the light ships on the
beautifully
other,
placed.
on the other bit of it. And I was very much and ahhing what to do with the sea. And I've spoken to some people, they've said crop it out because it detracts. But I quite like the bottom of it, because I think it gives you this sense of drama. Again, shutter speed was important just to have it so it's not completely blurred out. And what I've done with this is I've layered on the sky on the left wasn't that dark. Now, Dave Peck a few years ago would not have dared to have done this, but I've put a grad across in Lightroom and really gone to town. This is me going to town on it, by the way. I've really kind of darkened it down and made and selected the sky and made it rich. And I want to make the light tower sort of pop. And I've seen some images by a guy called Ed Allen, 2D, who all of his stuff is really vignetted, and he really goes to town on it. And I kind of let myself go a little bit, and I've started to go a little bit more that way. And it's using processing to express what you're feeling or what you felt.
Okay. Yeah.
You know? And that dark corner on the top left shows you what that day was like. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's why the colour works better for me than the monochrome. And there's a slight dark blue cast to it, but that's all fine. It kind of adds to the mood. So this is me trying to be creative, and the panoramic format, I've explained that earlier. That's kind of what I normally go to. I do like that because it gets rid of all the boring stuff at the front and all the boring stuff at the top.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I certainly agree with you. It comes to a panel. That's what it does. It does well. Yeah. And of course, everything just. I mean, it must be so difficult just to line up as well. I'm looking at the watchtower there, if you want to put it that way. I'm not sure the correct thing.
I can't remember. Right, I should know. Really, so it's bad.
But the lookout tower, even it's got even a space in between the legs there, and of course the buoy, the thing that obviously for the boats. Where you've got the top bar actually right on the horizon.
Yeah,
genius. And then, of course, you've got obviously the deadwood, the stumps coming out the water there, which is leading your eye back out to the water again. It's a really good shot. It's a nice bit of work. It's a piece of art. I like that. Yeah.
It's got leading lines even when you can't see the lines. The three stumps and the marker. That's one definite leading line into that light patch, the only light patch there is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the light tower, whatever it is, because of the kind of the angle it's facing, it's almost pointing at it as well and giving another leading line in. It's almost like there's something missing on the right-hand side, but it doesn't need to be there. It's like those two lines are leading into that light patch right in the middle.
Yeah, it's funny with this one because it's so easy to photograph. If you're disabled or you're in a wheelchair or you can't walk, you can shoot this picture. I mean, it's that easy to do, and therefore you sometimes feel, oh, maybe this is too easy. Maybe I should be testing myself. But actually, you know what? It still makes a great image. So do it.
That's my channel, Accessible Photography. So that's perfect. Yeah.
There we go, Alistair.
Always trying to get a plug-in. You know, it's like everyone to get a plug-in. Yeah.
Good for you, though. I'm doing sign language in my videos now as well.
Take them while we can.
It's all good for people to enjoy it, you know.
Yeah. I noticed the sign language. Yeah, that was quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've started to do that.
I appreciate that.
I've got an autistic daughter who's got learning disabilities. I'm surprised she hasn't stuck right through the door actually and said hello. So I'm very conscious of that. You know? And photography is brilliant for stress relief and it's accessible for everybody. You know, so I think it's
it certainly is. I think that's why most of us do it unconsciously.
But I think as well when you're saying that people are asking, are you mad? I think the best one for me is when the police came to do a welfare check on me. And they shouted out into the dark. It was on the coast at Queensferry, photographing the Forth Bridge. And it was in the dark on the rocks. And I think somebody must have said, there's somebody walking out to the water in the dark. And the police car arrived and they shouted out, police, you okay?
Wow.
Only one word came back, photographer.
Yeah,
we know.
That was it. Bye.
Yeah, we're getting some strange places, and we know exactly. Some people just don't get it. We get it, of course.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next one, and this one I liked as well because it's one of these ones that kind of, to me, is quite cultured. It's quite interesting. It makes me think, whereabout is it? Is it a different country? Is it in Africa? Or it's quite an interesting shot here. And of course, the boat itself, the vessels, it just looks like it's been sitting there for a while. Tell us more about this shot, Dave.
Okay, well, I've put this in the selection because I use a drone a lot. I used to use a drone a lot, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Not quite so much now. I use it quite a lot for B-roll and for intros for my videos. But I had a year or so when I was using a drone exclusively, and that was going to be my new kind of pano thing. Pictures, and this is what's known as the top-down picture. So you can often find this time of year in the summer. I mean, as we've already said, sunrise is ridiculous, sunset is really, really late. But with harsh light, the perfect thing to do is to just send a drone up and look straight downwards. This isn't in Africa. This is in Essex. This is really close.
Really?
It's close.
Literally about a mile.
That's good, close, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a video on my channel called Ghost Ship, and I came across it by looking at one of the photography books. You know, the guides you can buy. Well, Justin Minns, who's a very good local photographer, had put one out for Essex, and I purchased it, and he talked about this place. So I went and walked there one day and found it, and it was kind of, I needed to know what the tide needed to be, and the tide was low and it looked kind of messy. So I'd been watching the tide tables, and when it got to a high tide in a couple of weeks' time, I went back, and as luck would have it, as I arrived, the fog kind of rolled in, which is why I called it Ghost Ship with the video, and it's actually the image is really kind of eerie. Well, this was just, and then the fog gradually cleared away, and this is the actual ship itself, and it's sitting in high water, but it's still on the bed of the river. So it's completely derelict, really. I think another 10 years or so, it'll probably be falling to bits. But I love, and I've photographed several boats like this. You send your drone up, look down, and the amount of stuff that you see
it's
inside it. And it's a really interesting, again, the print of it is a really interesting picture. I wouldn't say it's particularly pretty. You know, my wife's not going to want it. We're not going to redecorate because of this one. But it's an interesting image.
It is,
And it's also because it's a little bit abstracty, and people think, "What on earth is it?" And you know, and the answer is it's a boat or a ship.
It's amazing you said where it was. I mean, looking at that image, it's like in a foreign country somewhere.
Yeah,
especially the water. You look at the water.
Yeah, exactly. That's this high tide, but underneath it, there's a little. The soil around here is very clayey. Actually, drone when you face down with a drone, the sea's got that kind of milkiness. There's mud churning up, and you can see the kind of whatever the plants are under the vegetation is around on there. Which once the tide goes down, that sticks out and becomes too prominent. So it kind of works at a high tide. Sometimes around here, though, we've got lots of estuaries and salt mud flats, and they make some really interesting shapes and patterns. That works really well with a low tide with a drone. And I haven't done that for ages, and I might do that in a couple of weeks' time. There's time of year for it. But some really interesting things you can do. New gear is something I said earlier. I wasn't really interested in cameras particularly, but if you buy a new bit of gear, it gets you out and taking pictures again, doesn't it? You know?
Oh yeah, it's a catalyst. It's
and that's what encourages you. It actually got me out of my sort of lack of mojo. I bought a drone, and it encouraged me to get out. My wife, by the way, I said, I'd like to I want to get a drone. And she said, well, how much is it? And I went, 800 quid. And she went,
yeah, exactly.
oh, you're going to lose it within like 5 minutes. But yeah, she was thinking about all the kids at Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so worth it. I mean, I did have one, but well, I won't go into what happened. But yeah, that is it's a thing that you can discover these kind of shots that is more just a more abstract shot. You can find things that you'll never get over to the vantage point. That's what I'm looking for. That's what it gives you, definitely.
It's a difference of view. That's the thing, and people appreciate it because they don't see that normally.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to do that.
Yeah,
I did. There's 3 wrecked boats in Salem Bay and Mull, and everybody's photographed them. But what I did for the video was to put the drone up and came across the top, just to give an idea of what it looked like and how bad they were, but in sort of disrepair and falling apart. It's a really good thing to do to get an interest shot.
Yeah, and it gives people the insight of course what's damaged in their community, etc., doesn't it?
Yeah.
So kind of a more journalist kind of photography in that case, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, we'll move on to the next one. Unless Steve want to just give a bit of your take on it, Steve? What's your take on it?
Well, I think the shot works because you're constantly asking questions about the image. What does the actual boat look like? What's inside the boat? What actually in there? And it keeps your eyes so interested within the image. And not only that, it's the mooring ropes, the perfectly angled as well, on that sort of 45-degree angle. Everything really works. But yeah, it's the interest, and then that colour of water that's just sort of just finishes it off as well. That's why I think the image works so well. But do you find when you're using your drone? I find when I use my drone, it's composition. I find quite difficult because you can't see it, and you're looking at it through a screen. And I've always felt and that's why I bought my drone really just for photography. Yes, I do B-roll with it and things like that, but I want to use it for photography. But you've almost you've got to be brave and get it up there and have a look, really, is what I'm trying to say. And doing shots like this is quite interesting. It's something I don't really do, but I will now after seeing this because I think it's a fantastic shot again.
Yeah, certainly gives food for thought.
I bought it for photography as well. Really, I'm on my 3rd one actually. I've got 2. I sold the first one that I had, but I'm a bit kind of let's just send it up and see what happens kind of guy. But I've done all the qualifications. I spent about $2,000 on getting my PFCO. I started up a drone photography business, which I didn't really put any effort in once I'd done it, but I know all the regulations and the rules around it, and you have to be very careful and not be an idiot and do stuff. But I do enjoy, if all else fails, send the drone up is my kind of motto. You'll always find something to photograph. The reason they're so hard to use, though, I think is because, well, first of all, people are worried about losing them, and the second thing is you've got, rather than left and right and up and down, you've got forward and back. You've got so many different planes that you can go so high and so low that basically the world's your oyster, and it's knowing what to do with it. And sometimes I'll send it up without visualizing what's there. I mean, there's some pictures I've taken where trees have fallen down, and it's the other side of the wood. I didn't even know they were there. They look fantastic. So it's just sort of sending it up and look. And I think drones are fantastic. I love using them. People don't like them, do they? You get a bit of a reputation, but I think there's some idiots on YouTube, really.
Absolutely, and it's, of course, every photographer, I suppose, loves them because of the B-roll, for if you're a YouTuber, etc. as well, and just it gives stunning B-roll, doesn't it?
It does. That's what I'm using it more and more for now, the video side of things. But I'm not so good at that as I am maybe.
Same here. It's a cracking image of that, and we'll move on to the next one, guys. And this one, of course, is one of the ones I loved as well, because I just wanted to ask you in this image. And okay, I mean, it could be. Is it single ISAM kind of exposure? Or is it one exposure kind of thing, or is this?
Okay.
Go for it. I'll let you explain it to me.
Okay, well, this is interestingly enough. On my YouTube channel, I've had more hits on this kind of thing than ever. And this is there to show that this is done on an iPhone.
Okay.
So you can produce art. I would sort of say this is creative art kind of a picture. There's a guy who you may have heard called Pep Ventosa, who's an artist, and he takes about 100 sort of images of a scene, moves left and right, moves the camera around, moves. And this one was done by moving in a semicircle. And then this has all been done in layers in Photoshop. So I kind of adjusted I uploaded them all from the iPhone into Lightroom, tweaked the color just so it wasn't too bad anyway, and then loaded them as layers in Photoshop, and then just playing with the blending modes as when what looks good. So you're adding a bit of creative input to it. So what all you do is you just move. You try and keep it straight when you're photographing, but on that tree trunk there, every single time I took a picture, I put it into Photoshop, and I'm just moving it so that the trunk is laying over the other trunk. This is a tree, and I was looking for one for ages, a cherry tree. This spring, I was looking for one that was kind of solitary, that was really kind of clear and had some lovely blossom on it. And there's a church to the right there. You can see that.
Yeah, I can see the steeple there. Yeah.
This was done, funny enough, on a dog walk. So I was with my wife. We took our little dachshund for a walk. She hadn't been out, just discussing the weather, where we're going to go for lunch. And I saw this.
Yeah.
And again, my wife, so she took the dog for another hour or so, where I just did that. And it literally took me, to be honest, 10 minutes. I'm going around it. I did it a couple of times. I did a vlog at the same time. So I did it on my iPhone. Videoed myself. I thought this was going to make an interesting vlog. And that colour top left was actually there, but I don't know where it came from. There was no purple in the sky. There was no oranges. It's just it just happened when I adjusted the blending modes. It just came up, and I just encouraged it. And I've done 2 or 3 of these. There's a tree literally. I can see it from here. It's about 200 yards away across the field over there. And that was the first one I did, and it was the easiest vlog I've ever done because I literally just walked out the door. And the technique, if you want to know, the technique's on my YouTube channel. You can see it. It's really easy. Even I can do it, so I'm sure everybody else can.
It's very Stephanie Johnson. Have you heard of Stephanie Johnson?
No, I haven't actually. No.
She loves this kind of thing. Bill Ward. You've already heard of Bill Ward. Her and Bill Ward will sort of do ICM kind of approach. Obviously, this is not technically ICM as much in the way that you've done it your own way.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really limit herself to ICM techniques, where she'll actually take different exposures and then she just blends them all into Photoshop, and then she just do what she wants to make into the image itself. So she'll have hundreds of images or 5 images. It just depends.
Yeah.
And then she'll just do what, for example, what you said there, and just sharpening things and just leaving things blurry out of her and so forth.
Yeah, there's a girl, I think it's Glenys Garnett, I think her name is. She's fantastic. Just multiple exposure stuff, textures. I was at an exhibition a couple of weeks ago. David Queenan, I don't know if you heard of, a really good Scottish photographer.
Right.
There was Dylan.
Yeah, I think David Queenan. Yeah, he's I've seen him. Yeah, he's on Instagram. I've seen him quite a lot.
Yeah, he was in the exhibition with Dylan Nardini, who was going to. It's called. It's the brochures over here. It's called That Other Landscape. And I went and saw the exhibition, and David had done some stuff where he'd laid some Photoshop textures over the top.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. And that's kind of. I like that kind of creative kind of. Free yourself, to do, and I quite like that. I want to include it tonight because something that anybody, if you've got a processing bit of software that will handle layers, you can do that with your phone.
Yeah, it's where photography meets art, as I said to Stephanie.
Exactly.
And it's like, I like how you got the textures on this. The textures are great. Just looking at the left hand side there, of course, of the greens there.
That's just some trees behind it.
It's great. Great textures. The grass, you can see the actual stump of the tree very well, and you've just got this dreaminess of the actual tree there. With regards to, you've not actually went for tack sharp or anything there. You've kind of let that kind of more kind of a softer approach for the eye.
Yeah,
Yes.
The church spire was interesting.
Yeah, I think that makes more realism into the image, isn't it? I mean, I think without that, I think it's given it kind of a more kind of realistic approach to it as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know. I just quite like it. Again, it happened to be there by accident, but it kind of I wanted to encourage it and bring it through a little bit.
I say shot, but it's not. It's more of a work of art. It's more of art. And as I say, there is that point with Bill Ward and guys like that. They're kind of moving that side. Photography can go in that direction as a genre as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I actually think. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Also,
yeah, it's okay.
We were talking earlier about photo libraries sort of killing off the art of it or the profession of photography. This is the way it could go, because this is purely using photography as an art form, and that's very hard for people to copy unless you've got the eye for it, I think.
Definitely. There is a skill there. You can't just wing it. Yeah. Definitely not. And you've certainly not done that.
Involved in this, but I think you can. I think that's definitely, if people are really better than I am, people like Glennis can really produce stuff that's stunning, and you think that's just so clever, you know?
Yeah, it's a cracking shot. I mean, that's what was the one that I picked when Alistair put the images up to speak about. So thank you for sharing that as well there. Guys, anyone anything to say about this image? I know it's completely different from what you may shoot as well.
It takes me back to higher art days at school, to be honest, a sort of stippling effect. It appealed to me straight away, and I was very intrigued as to how you'd done it, and I did think a little bit of ICM myself, same as Paul. And I'm going to go straight and have a look at your videos on this one, or video on this one, because I'm fascinated to learn more about it. Yeah. And I've written that name down, Pep Bentosa. I'm going to look him up.
Yeah, go and look at his website. He's done some stuff in London, and he will sometimes photograph in the same position and just move the layers about.
Yeah,
right. I think you must do that as well. But yeah, very interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a joy to see that kind of photography.
And it's nice colours as well. I like the colour.
It's the textures that stand out. I love the textures in this image because, like, it could be easily just a piece of art, a piece of work, but when you look at it, you're drawing in more. It's really good. So we'll move on to the next one, and this one back to photography again. Regards to as photography, I'm not saying that wasn't. But this is more photography as we know it, and of course the focal point, arguably, is a swan, right in the centre, but it's a cracking shot. Tell us more about this shot, Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, this one's coming up in a couple of weeks, actually. And funny enough, taken the day after the video when I was fed up, this was the 2 days later.
Is this where you were on the intro video where you were saying come back?
Yes,
coming back to the same place. That's the shot.
Yeah. So this is Derwent Water. I'm sure you probably know in Keswick, and I've been there a few times. It's a wonderful place to photograph. So the video we were mentioning earlier, I was in Scotland and I was coming back. We came back a day early. The original plan was me and my wife and I were going to share the journey, but she's hurt her knee, done her knee, and she didn't want to drive. So I said, right, what we'll do is we'll cut the holiday short by a day and we'll go to the lakes as a stop off. Otherwise it would have been a 10-hour drive straight, which I didn't really want to do. So I went down to Durban and photographed Derwent Water the night before, and it was a beautiful sunset. I really enjoyed doing that, but it was completely still. There's no air whatsoever, no breeze whatsoever, and there was a promise of fog, and I thought, well, that's going to be decent. And I had visions of getting there and there being so much fog that I couldn't see anything at all. As it turned out, there wasn't fog, but there was mist. And this was, again, early in the morning. So it was I think I got to location about 4:10. It was a couple of months ago. And I just turned up at the location. I'd been there the night before. I knew where I was going. I walked straight there. I photographed it. And I say that on the video several times. This is this is it. I've done it. I've cracked it, It was one of those moments. All I could hear were the birds, the odd, tweet, the odd ripple of fish. Nobody else there at all at that time of day, funnily enough. And I just literally finished the video camera. I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to pack away. And I turned around and I saw this swan coming across, and it's almost glowing.
Yes,
It was after sunrise. The sun was up. You couldn't really tell, but you can just because that swan is really lit up. And
yeah, it looks quite warm.
Yeah, and I was on about 8 seconds at f11,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously isn't going to work with a swan traveling as quick as it was. So I had to really quickly, and this is where knowing your camera gear kind of works. I had to quickly smash the exposure. So I managed to get up to a 15th of a second, I think this was, to get it sharp. And then the next picture, I got the exposure to 60 seconds, put the ISO up a little bit, but the swan was further to the right. And it had to be, as far as I was concerned, they had to be bang in the middle. And I looked on the back of the camera at this, and it's just like, this is it. This is one of the 5 or 6 I get a year, which are just competition. I just think they're portfolio images. This is a really nice.
Yeah, it's competition.
For me, it was just like, this is fantastic. I really love that. And again, I haven't processed it really. It's how it came out of the camera, pretty much. The raw file just need a little bit of tweaking. I've just pulled the sky in a little bit. But again, as Steve said earlier, if you overdo this kind of scene, it kills it off. You just want to have it very flat. Looks crap on social media. No one looks at it.
Social media. Of course,
social media is not good for that, is it? You know, it was in Amateur Photographer this last week or the week before, which I was really pleased about as well. It's been a long time since I've been in one of the magazines. So
well done.
But yeah,
I mean,
like
the layers in the background are absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Just a lovely part of the world, the Lake District.
Yeah. Steve, what's your take on this one?
You're on mute.
Steve?
He's muted, I think.
I'm on mute. I'll put my mute on.
Okay.
I was just going to mention about reacting quick with the shutter speed, because I've been in a situation like this where you've taken a lot longer exposure, then all of a sudden you see something come into the foreground and you've got to change your camera so quickly and react.
Yeah.
And that's where it's so important to, like you say, to know your camera inside out. So to capture a moment like this, because it's literally half a second later, that swan's in the wrong place and this image would not work. And because you can work your camera, it's just a stunning shot. I've seen this on social media, and it's amazing on social media. So to see it like this is just fantastic. And if this don't get your mojo back, nothing will. It's a brilliant shot. Very well done.
Yeah, exactly.
It came back after this, definitely.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Certainly cracking. You've got everything's lined up perfectly. Good balance to the shot as well. Very good balance to the shot, actually. Yeah. And it's like you've kind of, you've set up your composition, and of course the cherry on the cake was you waited for the swan. But it's not just waiting for the swan. I mean, it could take ages for that swan to get in there.
I didn't
even know the swan could wait in there.
Until it turned up, and I went, it's also going, that swan is going to work really well.
Yeah.
You know? And it was the light, again, it was the light on the swan.
I was going to say that, right enough.
It feels like it's glowing, and I haven't done much of those whites whatsoever, but it just was, it was one of those things you just stand with your mouth open going, that is just the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Nature's wonderful.
Is this one up for the wall for decorating?
That could well be. I have printed it, actually. I put it on A2. I just haven't shown it yet. We'll see.
She'll love it. I think she'll love it.
Go back to the blue and colour.
Yeah, it's a calendar shot as well, actually.
I can't afford to paint the wall again, so I won't show her.
No. What treat we've had tonight. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen at the moment. And there we go. We're all back again. Thanks again, Dave. These have been really stunning shots, and certainly a lot of different and unique shots. You know, one thing is we've noticed when we get different photographers onto the podcast is we get landscape photography, of course. But what you've given us is different types of landscape photography. There's, every picture's been different. There's always been a different reason for the light. There's always been like trees. We've had seascape. We've had urban with regards to the boat. So we've had a lot of different, and also, of course, the sort of I wouldn't say ICM. We'll say call it fine art. With regards to the blossom tree, that was a really cracking shot as well. Alistair, have you got any questions for our guest tonight?
I've just got questions about kit as usual. I'm a kit person.
He just asks everyone that comes on, so he can just go shopping.
Always about
so he goes shopping the next day.
Well,
that's all it is. Okay, shoot away.
I'm tempted to buy a new camera. That's the problem. But what it is, I'm like Paul. I've got the Nikon D850, but because of health issues, I'm finding it a heavy camera. I used it on Friday at the club. We were doing some photography of horses, horse riders, and so forth, and it's just too heavy. And I am looking at upgrading to a Nikon Z. I have the ZFC, which is a great little, almost a compact camera, and it works fine. But I noticed you were using the Z7 II, and it's 48 megapixel?
45,
something like that.
What? So the 45 megapixel, yeah.
45 megapixel, yeah.
Yeah.
It's something you pointed out about that camera that didn't quite work for you, and it was that it didn't have an articulating screen.
Yeah.
So the Z6 III has just come out. It's got an articulated screen, but it's only 24 megapixel. Would you be tempted?
No.
Is that a crop sensor?
No, I tell you, talking to gear, I did promise Gary that I'd mention him, Gary Sugden. Go and check him out. Gary Sugden seems to spend his whole life spending my pension fund. And the amount of stuff I've got.
I've seen Gary's work. It's good.
He's just bought a Z8. Now I'm going to wait for the. I might be tempted to get the Z7 III because I think the Z7 III will have more than 45 megapixels. Now, I see. I produce some of those with an iPhone. I produce some of those with an 8 megapixel 350D. But it gives you a lot more space. My favourite camera has been the GFX. The Fuji sensors are amazing. I mean, the Nikon sensors are Sony sensors anyway. The reason I wouldn't get a Z6 III is because I got rid of the XT4 because it was only 20 odd, and I just felt like, because I crop a lot with pans.
Would you consider workshops? Because obviously your photography's up there, and your background of being a teacher, the two would be merged together perfectly. Yeah.
They do. I'm very conscious of not doing stuff I don't want to do, but I'm feeling like I do want to do that. So it's definitely in the future, I think.
Look out for that future, guys. And guys, if you please look out for Dave's website, have a look at the images you've seen tonight as well. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's been really enjoyable. I've kind of enjoyed the whole process of this podcast tonight, Dave, and certainly you've given us food for thought in regards to your methods of working, of course, in photography. And thank you. Really enjoyed this one. And guys, please show some love to Dave Peck. You all find him on YouTube. And also, of course, all his socials will be right below this video. And also, of course, you can also find Steve's videos as well, which we've got a link. I think there's a link on our channel for Steve and also Alistair, Accessible Photography. Not me, because I'm on hiatus at the moment. I'm doing nothing. I will be back at some point.
I'm the same. I'm not doing an awful lot just now, but at least my videos don't have a YouTube warning on them when they go out, do they, Steve?
This was this, Steve, yeah? I've not seen your... I need to start looking at people's start.
I'd just like to say,
dancing.
Keep an eye out on Dave's YouTube, because we've got something lined up in the future, haven't we, Dave? We've got something lined up. So, yeah, we'll say no more than that, but we've got something lined up. Looking forward to it.
Oh, well, I'm going to ask you a question.
Well.
Yeah. Is this anything to do with a trip?
It's just a little.
On that note, we'll leave it there. I don't want to
just leave it there. Yeah,
stop someone off, guys. It's been a great. Thanks for watching this. Of course, installment of Landscape Lenscast podcast. And of course, and sticking around and witnessing some images we've all witnessed, and by God, they've been great images. Nevertheless, thanks, guys. And Dave, thank you for coming on. Anything you want to say to the members, the viewers of the channel?
No, guys, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I hope I haven't sent everybody to sleep, but I can talk for hours about photography, and it's really nice to have the opportunity. So thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you soon, Steve.
Yes,
see you all. Okay, guys, we'll leave it there. Have a good night, and take care. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
All the best. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.
We are talking.